That's my dad's name. Just stop with it. Okay, remove this. This last area is normal.
So actually, this is correct for the I want to make sure I have it right.
That's it. I was asking them. I said,
Hello, good morning everyone, good afternoon. So I hand it over to moderator to proceed this session, please.
Hi everyone, a very good afternoon. As we start this session, I'd first like to welcome everybody. Thank you for your time and for coming. I will formally introduce the session and all our panelists, but before that, maybe I could invite our very esteemed colleagues to join me on the stage. So with us, we have very enriching and very senior panel members. At the beginning, I'd like to invite the Government of India representative, Dr. V. Anantha Nageshwaran, the Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India. Next, I'd like to invite on stage Dr. Wonso Marto from FAO, who's the Director of Innovation. With them, we also have with us Brenda Mulele Gunde, who is the ICT4D Global Lead for IFAD. If we can have a round of applause for our panelists, please. Thank you. And after that, with us from the World Food Programme, we have the Chief Data Officer, Magan Naidu. Please join us on stage, sir. And then last, Dr. Indran A. Naidu, who is the Director for the Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD. I will take the mic. May I mention? No? Okay. Before we formally start, the organizers would like to take a formal picture, so if I can please request the panel members to come to the front. You need me to go there.
It's over here. All right. Okay.
Can I start first? Sorry, all right. Well, they're finding a handheld mic for me, so until then...
For farmers, weather is everything. Rainfall, heat, humidity, and wind determine when to plant, when to harvest, and how to protect livestock and fish. Through the Life ND project, farmers now access weather-specific agricultural advice using Farmer Chat developed.
Okay. It is an AI summit. It doesn't mean we will not have technological issues. Thank you for bearing with us. And with that, we will formally start, and at some point I will sit there when we find a mic. If we can start, if the panel is okay with it. Okay, namaste, namaskaram, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to everybody that's joined us. We're very happy to have you here, and we're very happy to have this panel. My name is Vaishnavi Pavitran. I'm the Global Technology Partnerships Manager for the UN World Food Programme. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to host and moderate this panel, and I'm from India, so it's very special for me to be back on home ground to do this. Today we are here to discuss from evidence to scale, testing, financing, and operationalizing tech and AI for humanitarian and development action. That's a very long title, right? So what does it actually mean? What are we looking to do here in the next hour? In line with the AI India Summit, to move from dialogue to impact, when we were designing this event, we really wanted to focus on seeing how this dialogue can be actually about impact instead of just talking about it. So what is already... Okay, now I can sit down. So what is already happening on ground? What are we doing? What are we seeing? How are we learning from that? And that's really the questions we are looking to deep dive into the next hour and seeing how all of these different pieces fit together, from financing to pilots to evidence to seeing how the governance and policy of this works. And we really want to focus on seeing what we are seeing on ground and what we're learning from it. This event is co-hosted and organized by the 3 Rome-based agencies. Thank you. The 3 Rome-based agencies, which is the UN World Food Programme. It's the largest humanitarian organization that is out there. You have then FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, who is actually all of the research and think tank and the brains behind a lot of what we see in agriculture and in food systems. And last, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, which is an IFI actually, an international financial institution, a specialized UN agency that really looks at unlocking finances for inclusive and sustainable development. Together, they're called the Rome-based agencies because they're based in Rome, but we also share the common mission of food security, hunger, nutrition, and agricultural development. So together we work on SDG 2, which is zero hunger. With that, as I was mentioning, we have a very esteemed panel, and actually, as we were designing this, we were really looking for people that have worked on ground across a wide range of expertise, and you will see that as I introduce them. But we know we got this 12:30 slot where some of you will be a little hungry, so instead of just doing introductions, I'm going to put our panelists on the spot a little bit and ask them a 30-second rapid fire. What we wanted to do was give you a little bit of a flavor, something personal, hear their thoughts outside their designations, and then we'll get into the panel discussion. So if I can have some support to put up a 30-second clock on the screen and maybe put them on the hotspot. I will start with introducing our Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. V. Ananthanageshwaran. To be honest, he's the person who needs the least introduction in this context, our 18th Economic Advisor. He has been in the term since 2022, a writer, a teacher. I actually used to read his columns on the Mint, so I'm fangirling a little bit. The seating arrangement was not biased at all. And as we look at you, sir, I think one of the things that was very interesting and why we're very honored to have you here for the National Economic Survey that was just out 2 weeks back, for the first time in India, we actually have a dedicated chapter on AI. And I think this has been quite incredible, and there is a lot of thought there in terms of what we are looking to do. And we will delve into it in the panel. But my rapid fire for you, earlier at this summit this week, you were speaking about the future of employability and how AI should be used for educational reform. And so I'm wondering, in a world where AI can produce at a fraction of cost and effort of what the human takes, is there actually still value for the human experience that you think about?
Undoubtedly, yes.
Okay. No, I'm still giving you 30 seconds. I'm just checking your mic. It's very good.
Yeah, undoubtedly, yes. I think just as in software, garbage in, garbage out, the kind of output and involvement you get from AI will also depend on how rich and how deep your prompts are. So I think the more you read, the better you will be in using AI.
So solid and way under 30 seconds. Think about that for efficiency. Thank you for setting the tone for the rest of the panel. Next, we have Dr. Vincent Marteau. He's the Director of Innovation at FAO, responsible for leading the innovation agenda. He joins us with over 28 years of experience in research and policy and is very passionate about the agri-food systems. He's also served as the UN Resident Coordinator in the Republic of Guinea and as the representative in China and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So we speak a lot about the positives of AI, and you've discussed this at various forums in the last couple of years. I'm wondering, if AI did not exist today, what would be the biggest loss we would face?
Thank you very much. I think we would lose speed, we would lose precision, and we would lose foresight, which are three key and essentials capabilities for doing advanced scientific research. So I really have the feeling that without AI today, we would miss some major discovery. I'm thinking of new vaccines, new therapies, treating infectious diseases, early warning systems. And this would really affect our capacity to really respond to these exponential challenges we are facing. So we need AI-powered solutions that really are commensurate to the magnitude of the problems we are trying to solve today.
Well said, couldn't agree more. And next we have Brenda Mulele Gunde, who's the global lead for ICT 40 for IFAD. Before that, she's worked with UNICEF as the ICT chief and also comes from a very strong NGO and CSO background. She's worked for over 11 years with World Vision, started with ActionAid. It's so nice to have you with us with all your experience across multiple countries in Asia and Africa. You've really been leading ICT leadership and digital transformation. But my question for you, I've stalked your LinkedIn a little bit. You travel a lot. And I'm wondering, in this travel, what is an AI application you've used personally, including maybe this week? Can you tell us?
Yeah, thanks so much. I've used ChatGPT, but it's not ChatGPT to write my notes. I'm so curious how ChatGPT has transformed quickly with image processing. So I put up this image and said, can you create my photo close to this Greek philosopher sitting up on a lake and talking about how it is important to make transitions. And ChatGPT took my photo, I was standing, made it sit down, like in almost live form. I was like, this is interesting, right? So I love tech. I'm a geek. So it's very interesting to see how ChatGPT is actually transforming.
Very good to know. So we can Photoshop some very senior people into this panel too. And next we have Magan Naidu, who's the Chief Data Officer for WFP. I've had the pleasure to work with him over the last year. He's actually our first ever Chief Data Officer who joined us in 2023. Under his leadership, we've developed and published the first ever WFP Global Data Strategy and launched the Artificial Intelligence Strategy for the first time too. Pre-WFP, he comes from extensive private sector background. He used to be the country leader for AWS in South Africa. And while I have spoken about the strategies, I must say so much of our work is on implementation, and we will get into that. But across all of these industries that you worked at, what is one myth about AI that you encounter in your job? We hear too much WhatsApp forward, so why don't you tell us a myth you've encountered and what it looks like?
Thanks very much, Vaishnavi. You mean AI is real, right? So I guess the thing I find most that I come across is when people think of AI and its use of solving problems, they see it as some kind of magic that can solve it in a vacuum. And the reality is it needs good, reliable data, it needs human expertise, and it needs investment in time and training it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And last, we have Dr. Indran A. Naidu, who is the Director of the Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD. I've had the pleasure to interact with him a few times, and I must say he's one of the most passionate people I have met on evaluation and respecting the independence of evaluation. So very happy you could join us. Prior to this, he used to be the Director of Independent Evaluation for UNDP, and he's held other roles across the UN in senior management and in South Africa. I think one thing to note, as I was saying, his career really shows the evaluation function focus, having engaged and produced more than 150 country and corporate evaluations, and I'm sure we'll benefit from that in this panel. My question for you, Indran, if you had to narrow it down, what is the biggest benefit of AI that you're seeing today at an individual level for every normal person out there?
Thank you very much, Vaishnav, and happy to be here. I think AI broadly, it has an ability to provide multiple and simultaneous benefits to a range of actors, all of which are mutually reinforcing. There's three tiers I talk about. One is the community and individual. The individuals within the community, that provides high quality information. It democratizes them, and it also leads to it's really a boon for democracy. As Prime Minister Modi has said, all inclusive. So it helps with inclusivity. The second tier would be government and agencies such as IFAD, who really are trying to enhance an intervention. This provides them with customized information to come up with customized findings and customized solutions. One of the challenges any researcher would know, the gap between research and implementation. So this can become much more focused. And in agriculture, it definitely needs to be sustainable. As an evaluator, we now have access to broader, deeper information, which helps us to triangulate in a more sophisticated way, better findings, but importantly, more customized recommendations. So in essence, it's an assistive technology, cannot exclude human beings, but it's a tool that makes us a lot more productive. Thank you.
Thank you. And can we have a round of applause for them actually doing it in 30 seconds? Now we move into the actual panel discussion, and I just want to tell the audience, this is not just about them or me asking them questions. We actually have some time for you to ask questions, so we would really appreciate that you come and engage with us, and this is a two-way dialogue that takes place. But I will kickstart. So maybe I can start with you. And as I was saying, when I was reading this National Economic Survey, I found it very interesting that there is an argument for a third way of AI regulation, not market-led the way we see it in the US, not regulatory-heavy as we see in Europe, but that there is a bottoms-up approach that we can take. And I feel like at the UN and at the government, we often discuss policy first, implementation second, and for the first time we're kind of saying, no, let us discuss what are the real cases. I see you smiling, so I feel I read it correctly. So my question, given the fast-paced nature of AI, how dynamic it is, from a government perspective, what are policy implications for regulating AI, and what is the role of the government in facilitating AI for the public sector?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vaishnavi. I think given the limited time we have, apart from nudging everybody here to read the chapter in the economic survey, I'll just give a quick bird's eye view of what are the implications for regulating AI. First, it's important to get sequencing right more than the speed of regulation right. So there is need for a phased approach. And the second is regulation cannot be omnibus. It has to be risk-based or proportionate regulation. The third thing is the techno-feudal challenge. In other words, regulators have to understand that they have a democratic obligation to the public, and therefore they have to make sure that the market concentration risk and the balance of power between the AI companies and the public is always kept in mind. And number four, the labor market sensitivity by design, and that is true for a lot of global south countries, because we just don't want to create a social instability problem in the name of productivity gains, because who gets to share the fruits of productivity will ultimately matter for the society and the economy. And we also said that there has to be an AI economic council. We wrote about it in the economic survey, because it is not a problem of only compute, data privacy or security. It has got socio-economic implications. So countries have to have cross-cutting inter-ministerial body called an AI economic council. You can label it differently. I think that will be necessary to govern AI in the interest of society. We should not let only technologists determine the AI regulation policy, and data governance matters. And then when it comes to preparing the public to operate in the world of AI and also outside of AI, foundational skills will matter much more than technical training. So what kind of education we impart to our students and our youngsters will be an important part of regulation. So these are the 7 elements of dealing with AI from a policy perspective. Back to you.
Thank you. It was excellently summarized, and you all got a sneak peek of the chapter 2 in there. Let me turn to Wonso. Given the very close relationship between AI and innovation was why we really wanted to hear your perspective, Wonso, on how you see AI playing a role in streamlining innovation. Are you leveraging AI in scaling innovation to create value for the field? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I must say, although AI is not the silver bullet, the answer to your question is yes. We are leveraging AI for mainstreaming and scaling innovation across our organization. I think that's just something that nobody can avoid in this time of history. I would like to give you 2 examples on the way FAO is using artificial intelligence. So the first one is to make global knowledge accessible and actionable. But first, let me tell you one thing, is that the fact is that we are not, the biggest challenge, I would say, for scaling is not a lack of solutions. It's not a lack of solution, but it's more a lack of opportunity for connecting people and stakeholders together in order for them to have access to this information. So what is important to remember is we need to find solutions based on AI that are accessible and affordable. Because when I'm thinking of low and middle income countries, in most of these countries, they are left behind in terms of being able to use some of these technologies. So the role of FAO is really to close this gap and making sure that all these new technologies are accessible and affordable. And to fill this gap, FAO has launched an initiative which is called the Agri-Food System Technology and Innovation Outlook. Agri-Food System Technology and Innovation Outlook, which is the first ever global database on technologies and innovations, so innovations on a broad sense, for agri-food system transformation. And we are using AI to scan the different reliable data sources and be able to bring together these huge sources of information on technologies and innovation. It has been launched recently at our Science and Innovation Forum, and it's accessible through our Science, Technology and Innovation portal. So my first point was, how do we make this? Scaling means making this technology and innovation accessible and affordable for people. And first of all, you need to know what they are, in which context they work, and in which context they do not work. The second way we are using AI in FAO is we've been introducing what we call a portfolio sense-making and management of innovations. That is to say, before, and especially before AI, we were innovating. We had solutions that were being promoted or catalyzed and scaled all over the world, but we didn't have a perfect vision of what were these solutions, what are the most impactful, how can we learn from these solutions, and what are the ones that we would like to scale. Thanks to AI today, we are able to analyze massive number of data reports, final reports of projects, and thanks to that, we now have a clear vision of what is FAO's portfolios of innovation and technologies by thematic area, in livestock, in forestry, in health, etc., etc. So we do have now this vision which help us to identify what are the most promising solutions, what are the ones that need scaling through policy, through investment, and so on and so forth, but also for us to be more strategic in where do we want to invest our resources and what is the most needed, again, for smallholder farmers to have access to this technology. So that's a second area where we are having this portfolio management, which without AI would have taken us months and years. I just would like to add one more point, which is a lot of things we are doing in terms of mainstreaming and scaling is non-AI related. And I think it's important to make these points. I mean, we will all agree on that. And I think you mentioned it just before, the human dimension and the values we bring into these AI-powered solutions is absolutely essential. And we cannot say we were not warned that there are a lot of risks associated to AI. We've been warned by all the top leaders of the world. So as the United Nations, we really want to hold these principles and this value very, very high and make sure that whatever we do is inclusive and that we are using soft skills, social relationships, networking, behavioral design to make sure that these technologies can reach the one who most need it.
Thank you. I was very sure that between the Rome-based agencies, they would be sync because we collaborate a lot together. But it's great to see the sync with the government and seeing that flow. And I want to pick up on something you said on making these solutions accessible and affordable. And money brings me to Brenda, to your question. We really can't move anything from dialogue to impact without funding and money. And as AI adoption shifts from pilot projects to scalable across countries, what or how are countries approaching structural financing for AI or digital innovation rather? What are investment instruments that maybe IFAD is looking at that will unlock inclusive and sustainable AI adoption in rural areas especially? Over to you.
Okay, thank you for that question. I want us to first imagine the road network. When we walk on the roads, we can take it for granted that there are roads and we drive our cars in it. But if we look at the road network, it has been developed and financed by governments. Governments put money, they build a road network. But you never find a government that also runs a car dealership and they also provide the cars, right? So it means the cars are provided by people as ourselves and private sector and anybody else who wants to develop cars. So with that in mind, I want us to transform the same image that we have roads and cars into now AI and how it transforms into implementation. Government responsibility is the development of what we're calling digital public infrastructure. The role of digital public infrastructure, there's several pieces in it. There's the element of farmer registries, the data of the farmer. Who is the farmer, where they are, what are they growing, and what are they producing? Where are they selling? That's the first data. Then we have got the other element, which is interoperability. What do we mean by that? Systems that speak to one another. Government speaks to me, I hear what they're speaking, is the same language, we're hearing it the same way. That's interoperability. Then you have the data governance and policy. I think that has been mentioned. Then you have digital payments. So things that when you look at them, we may not see the connection. Digital payments and identity. When you are able to pay something by a phone, there's a data that every of those systems are speaking to for you to be able to have a seamless payment. Then you have the delivery, extension delivery. So That's systems and infrastructure, that's the role of government to produce the enabling environment. Now we have the other piece now. That government has done the public service. We need now to look at what are some of the key things that can be put on top of it. And we have good examples where we have AgriStack that the India government has worked on. We have Kiamis that the Kenyan government has worked on. We have also AGMIS that Rwanda government, and we have several examples why government is doing that. But why are they putting money into all those things? Building that foundation of services is important for private sector investment. Now, why is private sector important? Because if we're looking at the digital services, the AI models, the different services that are being built currently for the agriculture sector, these are being innovated by private sector. Private sector is the one that is building and bringing cars on the road network. Now, why are we asking private sector to be part and parcel of the puzzle? Is because we want to drive at scale. I think that's the question you're asking me. Why are things moving from pilot to now as a core infrastructure? Is because there is a connection between what government plays and the role that also private sector plays. Now, there are shifts that are happening within the financing space, which I'm calling financing logic. The logic is that governments before were not borrowing for what we're calling soft infrastructure. Soft infrastructure is AI systems, but now they're paying attention and say we need to be able to finance these things. So they are able to work with institutions like IFAD, they're able to institutions like World Bank and others to actually put investments into digital public infrastructure because they know that's how it's going to unlock the private sector. That's when it's going to bring in the cars. The other aspect is that when you look at systems for digital public services, no matter how flashy the car is, no matter how innovative it is, if there's no road to drive it, it becomes useless. All right? So the reason why we're saying this is very important for us to connect the dots. As if I say we are looking at public money, but that public money is supposed to unlock private investment. That's how the dots connect. So, and then the other part is that people can be asking, why are we not using donor money for this? Why can't we just take a grant and put it in that? Grants have taken us into pilots, but we cannot use grants for scale. We cannot take donor money and say we are scaling through donor money because donor money is projectized. It ends at a certain point in time. After that, the question is who is supposed to take this forward? So the reason why we're shifting the finance logic and say let government put resources into the digital public infrastructure, let's unlock and de-risk private sector investment is because we want a road network and cars that work. The other part that also we need to look at, the question you're asking about the different instruments, is that as IFAD, we work with both sovereign instruments, but also in what we call non-sovereign instruments. Non-sovereign instruments are private. So the sovereign instruments are going to support building the roads and everything else, while the other non-sovereign are the ones that are going to help us to what we call blended catalytic investment. This is the private sector combination with public sector. Together, all this is what is going to take us from pilots into scale. So answering your question, going back to the road, now we have the road, then we have the right cars that are going to drive the road. That's the analogy that we can scale AI. Without it, we can't go very far. Thank
you. And such a great analogy to make it so simple to understand too. With that, now that we know how we can get the money and build the roads, let's turn to Megan to understand how are we actually operationalizing this on the ground. Can you tell us with some examples how this is benefiting field operations? Over to you.
Thanks, Vaishnavi. Really good question, right? Because if we do all of this, we got to ask ourselves why and to what end. So in the World Food Program, it's very much about field focus, country first, and how we make impact, real impact on the ground through AI interventions. We have many examples in many areas that we've deployed AI because we look at it quite holistically. But some of the areas to share, the first one really around food security. Food security, we're using that AI technology to optimize our supply chain routes so that we get food out faster, more optimally, and basically get food to the right place, to the right people at the right time. So that drives efficiency in our operations. We're also using artificial intelligence to build food resilience into local communities, where we use AI and local data such as soil samples to help the local community to get the best possible crop yield, then to build independence into the community over time. The other area we're using AI effectively is in emergency response, which is the other part of what WFP does. In terms of using artificial intelligence to respond better to floods or droughts, which then allow us to get ahead of the curve, that we position ourselves, with some forewarning and get more to a point where we can respond proactively as opposed to reactively, where we can get in front of the emergency situation, position our food supplies ahead of the crisis, and therefore get aid out more effectively. We're also using drone and satellite imagery to assist in search and rescue operations, where we can use the very scarce resources to optimally rescue people. And actually those two solutions themselves come together, where we're using AI, which is perhaps invisible in some ways but has impact to the front lines, where we're using things like agentic AI to build solutions faster at lower cost, which then makes it cheaper to the field operations and therefore drives our cost to serve down, giving us that much more impact on the front lines. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have the money, the pilots, what's working on ground, the policy, all of it. But what are we already learning from this? With that, I turn to you, Indran. Given AI is a newer space, as the director of evaluation, how are we approaching the evaluation of AI program themselves? And I'm also curious if you're using AI in your own team or work in evidence collection and evaluation processes to help.
Thank you very much, Vaishnath. So the question is answered from two fronts. One, we are using AI in independent evaluation to have a better story, a better narrative to promote learning. We need to recognize that evaluation tends to historically work on samples. They can be quite limited size. With AI, we're able to sample broader, increase the scale, the depth, and the scope. So hopefully the information that is coming in is more reliable. We've dealt with the issue of variability. That's the first point. Secondly, AI actually reduces our research costs. And that time now can be better used using the information to produce analysis that is also deeper and more customized. I think anyone who reads evaluation reports often has a fair criticism. You are telling us what you know, and your recommendations are too generalized. Now, we need to recognize this differentiation, especially in the rural sector, and generalized recommendations will not bring about overall solutions. So my office is using it strongly. We have AI functionality. We also share our lessons within the group called the Evaluation Cooperation Group, which are the heads of evaluation of the MDBs, which we serve on. And that has seriously reduced our cost, but also improved our efficiency. But we take a view that the human being cannot be left out. So we need to also guard against bias, because if you get it wrong, you actually amplify the bias. That's point one. Point two, part of my responsibility is to evaluate independently IFAD and report on IFAD's performance to government around the world. That's why I'm also having a series of simultaneous meetings in Delhi here. But then also to tell the board and the funders how IFAD is performing. Now, in the new program, the India Country Program, my colleague Mark is over here, we have AI as a component. I just looked back, 2010, 2016, there was no AI mentioned in the country strategy programs of India and all the other countries that this office, which is evaluating for 20 some odd years, is doing. So now we are looking at the intervention, the claim, and what has happened on the ground. When it comes to happened what on the ground, we assess whether the AI intervention, the application that IFAD is supporting governments with, is it relevant, sustainable, efficient, transparent, impactful? What is the scale? So that's the second part that comes in. So when we look at AI, I would urge everyone to still look at it according to the criteria: relevance, efficiency, impact. And impact even more, but impact for overall scale. We don't have the results yet because it's new, but I'm quite sure that in years to come, the assessment of IOA of AI intervention would be quite interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll have a follow-up panel a few years from now where we're discussing all of this in reflection. Thank you to all the panelists for some very interesting feedback and something that I think really grounds how AI is being looked at outside of all of the strategic discussions. Now we turn to you, audience, who very patiently heard us out and engaged with us. We'd love to open the floor for any questions that may be there. Yes, please, I have a hand up. If you can please state your name and then please ask us the question, sir.
Hello. My name is Subhash. I am from the energy sector in India, working with the public sector for the last 25 years. And I'm hearing Dr. Nageshwaran, our chief economic advisor, on the various forums about the economic situation in India. Now, it is a very, very informative session today, giving the broad policy decision on the AI impact on Indian scenario. Now, my question is, because I'm from the public sector, in the previous session also, it was on the public sector, but nobody from the public sector was there. So now my question, since our economic advisor here from the government of India, the public sector in India are on major are from the power sector, from the steel industry, from the fertilizer sector, oil and gas sector, infrastructure, and then health sector, and then all small defense sector. These are the public sector. Now they have got their different entity of their own expertise, having that different across the domain. They are working independently. Yeah. And you have very correctly said that, Vaishnavi, that public sector you touched.
In the interest of time, can you please come to the question quickly?
My question is that, is there any government policy for the public sector vis-a-vis AI systems applicable to the public sector? Thank you.
No, there is no specific policy for public sector enterprises. Each sector, I think Mr. Naidu spoke about relevance, impact, effectiveness, etc. So obviously the relevance, efficiency and impact will differ from sector to sector. The Ministry of Electronics and Information will lay out the broad policy framework, but then each sector or the enterprise will have to evaluate it from the point of view of their cost and benefits. For example, the financial sector regulators, both RBI and SEBI, have put out working papers on how AI can help in the respective financial sector, what kind of safeguards that institutions need to have when they sell products to individuals, whether it is insurance or capital markets, etc., and how they are using AI to understand their trading pattern, and they have an obligation to inform the clients, the investors, etc. So like that, in the finance sector, there is a different application. So it's important to lay out a policy framework in very broad terms, which is what MeitY is doing. But then later, it's up to each ministry and each enterprise, therefore, to come up with policies that are very tailor-made for their specific situations. It's not necessary to have one omnibus policy. That should be only at a very, what shall I say, very macro level.
Thank you. I'm going to put my hat back for rapid fire. Please be super quick so we can take more questions. I see a person, and then we'll come back to you, ma'am. Ma'am, if you can please ask your question.
Yeah, I'm Manjula Pradeep. I represent a civil society organization. I just wanted to ask a question about when we are saying that the SDG goal 2 and the larger goal of SDG, saying we don't want to leave anyone behind. How can AI ensure that there is zero poverty? Because zero poverty is a very optimistic goal which we are saying. Because I just wanted to understand how you have made a very wonderful presentation by all the panelists, but how does the AI will be able to help to address extreme poverty, because mainly in Asia and in Africa, we do have large starvation deaths and other issues relating to extreme poverty. So I just wanted to have that concern.
Thank you for the question. I would turn to our RBA colleagues. Any hands up, or I can shoot the question. Please go ahead.
I'll go. Thank you. I'll go first because that question connects directly to our goal of solving for world hunger at the World Food Programme. So we see a lot of promise in AI in helping accelerate solving for the problem of zero hunger. It cannot solve it itself. I think there's a lot of components around it that will help solve it. But what it can do is help close the gap faster. And some of what I mentioned, which is building food resilience into communities, where you can, shift away from where organizations need to fund them or provide food. And that's the type of solutions we need to converge on, because solving for hunger is a moving target. So I think if we keep trying to solve it the way we are, it will always be a moving target. So we need to start thinking differently. How do we actually push AI into the local communities where they then can self-serve and close that gap much faster?
Thanks, Magan. Wonsa, did you want to compliment?
Maybe rapidly. I think this is what we were saying just before. It's we need to be inclusive in the design of these solutions. And in the previous panel, we had a colleague from UNDP who was mentioning if you create an AI solution that doesn't help delivering vaccine faster or producing something for smaller farmers in our case, then we are not interested. So it means that in the design of these solutions, we have to be very intentional and making sure that it's human-centric, it's designed around the people who really need it. And this is where I think public-led innovation is so important in this context.
Well said. Completely agree. I see that you had a question, ma'am, please.
Yeah, namaste. I'm Megha Desai from Seva. We work with the small and marginal women farmers, and we have also piloted the AI application for the small farmer, women farmers. What our experience says that, of course, the technology is costly for the small and marginal, and specifically women farmers, where the women have facing structural cultural barriers to access finance. And second is the subscription. Once, even if that is a blended pool of finance, they access it. But the regular subscription is also very high to maintain the cost. So when we talk about pilot and expansion, we are facing the challenge. So is there any solution that IFAD, FAO, WFP or the government is doing so that we can take to the women, small and marginal farmers? Thank you.
I will shoot this question to Brenda on how, if you want to start.
Yeah, there are quite interesting things that we have seen. Most of the studies that you find out there, they would say that women are less adopters of technology. But I'll tell you that is not usually the case. Women are early adopters of technology. They easily adopt technology, they easily understand it, and then they easily train others. The challenge that you're talking about when you talk about inequalities and digital divide and all these other elements is also one you're looking at from the literacy perspective, you're also looking at from the access perspective, and you're looking at from the supply perspective. Key things that women farmers need. Can they be able to access markets? And then they're able to access those markets on time? Can they be able to access finance so that finance can be able to propel them to better produce and also make better income for their families? When it comes to technology, one of the key things that we look at, not only just addressing the literacy, but also addressing the access issues and also ensuring that we are addressing the supply of those technologies. One is, are these technologies able to work in the rural communities? As IFAD, we are a rural development agency. So we ask the questions, how do we make all these technologies available for the rural communities? AI, if we see it, most of it is running on applications, maybe WhatsApp, they're running on, that need a smartphone. But if we're able to ask ourselves, can we be able to take this technology and make it what we call backward compatibility and be able to provide the same service on a feature phone? Those are the things that women need so that they can be able to access technology. The other aspect is the delivery mechanism of women institutions, ensuring that women can be able to come together, learn the technology as a community, and to be able to share that knowledge also as a community. We've seen, I think, our colleagues in RBS where they call about farmer field schools, where where women are coming together in a group and they're able to learn the technology. So the delivery mechanisms has to be those that address access issues, but also ensuring that we're able to allow women to access markets, to be able to sell the produce, at the same time also address the literacy challenges. So it's a full circle of how we address all these challenges on women.
Thank you, Brenda. Yes, I see another question, and then we'll come to you, sir. 5 minutes, so I will really request that now we start going rapid fire.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Shelly, founder of Shellcopter Academy. So Shellcopter Academy is Northeast India's first platform where we teach Northeastern Indian women how to create content online using AI. As a fellow Northeastern, I had the privilege of having the access to fresh organic food. So my question is, if ultra-processed food is cheaper because the system is optimized for it, and AI optimizes system even further, how do we prevent AI from reinforcing the very inequalities that make fresh organic food a privilege?
Great question. Reminding me of Black Mirror a little bit there. I will turn to Wonso or so. I would love to know the answer to the question. We would love to know the answer to the question is what I'm having from the panel. At least we have a humble panel here. Anybody who would like to take it? Please, Brenda, one for the team.
I'll try it. So we're looking at organic being a privilege. I come from Malawi. All right. In Malawi, the way we produce, if we didn't have technologies that have to look at traceability, we produce organically and naturally. All right. But the caveats of the indicators of what entails something to be organic, and because it has been said it's organic, then it becomes premium. My question to you would be: it's not about making it, elite. How do we change the narrative for the women that produce things organically so that they can be able to access markets at a premium price and address the inequalities when it comes to pricing and also in terms of the income that the women generate? If we're able to answer that question, then we'll go back and say, well, how do we make all the systems and indicators of traceability and all the elements to be able to be beneficial for smallholder farmers? So we have to have this conversation. I don't think that we're at best.
I think we concur. That's a very good response. That was a good one for that. We weren't sure when we started, but I think we landed very well on that one. I see you had your hand up. Please, you're next.
Thank you. Myself is Vinay Singh from FAO. My questions to all of you, there are a lot of advisories to the farmers based on the AI. And also on the 16th, I visited Bharat Mandapam. There are plenty of advisory. What are the mechanisms as a farmer? I get many messages on pest control advisories, on cultivations, best practices. How is there any mechanism to control that? Which one should I trust as a farmer? So that is the question.
Thank you for the question. And it is true, we are in an era where we're getting bombarded with all sorts of different information. How do you know what's true and what's not? Another googly, hey? This panel is really being tested. Wonso, I see you take some initiative. Can I shoot it to you?
I'm replying to my FAO colleagues. So we are working on that, actually. And I think one of the central question, and it's also related to what Brenda was saying, is about the data quality and the data governance. And we still haven't cracked completely this issue, but it's the most important one. And in the FAO projects, where we are trying to strengthen advisory services through AI, what we are doing is, we are working with national data sets. It's not just all the data from the world we are using to train the model. We are using very specific data sets which are relevant to the local places where the farmers will access these services. So we are really working on this data governance to make sure that we are not increasing biases and that the information that is provided to farmers is just the right one. So I think this is something we have already kind of solved in some ways when you do it in a kind of localized context.
Thank you.
If I may say something quickly. when you're asking about the rapid question, you said 30 minutes, what did you use? I said I used ChatGPT. I wouldn't say take ChatGPT and give it to a smallholder farmer. Why? Yes, it can answer questions, but that information is not curated, it's not vetted, it is not informed. It's informed by so many data. It's like you are there on the playground and everybody tells you everything and you're just taking it. The models that you're seeing smallholder farmers use are curated information. Researchers, extension advisors are putting that content together to actually address and provide digital advisor services to smallholder farmers. But there will still be the element of fatigue. Because farmers have this app for something, have this app for something. The reason why we are coming together and say, let's work together and as RBAs is that can we be able to democratize data so that within that we can now provide services to smallholder farmers with one source of truth. And that's something that also the India government is doing well. I think we commend them for the Vista project that's just been launched. I think that's one of the solutions to this. So don't take ChatGPT and give it to a smallholder farmer.
Thank you. I think at this point I see a big flashing red time's up, but as been said, we have one last question we can take. So if you can keep it very short, please, that would be great.
Namaste panel. My name is Piyush Kanal. I am from IFAD. So my question is actually to Dr. Nageswaran, and I want to move away from the application of AI to the infrastructure part, just to understand that with the increasing computing capacity required for AI, we also need to develop the infrastructure. Now for that, in India, are we planning that the benefit of it can also be availed by the tier 2 or tier 3 cities, or rather the remote areas, especially, for example, the hilly states in India, which also have natural advantage of providing a temperature control. So do we have any program or initiative that can incentivize these states to start building these data centers?
It's a good question, and the answer has to be nuanced, and given the time, it may be too brief an answer. Infrastructure, as you correctly pointed out, may have to be located in areas where geographically it is compatible. But the AI capabilities can be dispersed. That is why the 5 centers of AI excellence that the Government of India announced in the last budget have been well dispersed. And then the talent ecosystem for AI can also emerge in different places. It's like saying a semiconductor chip manufacturing mission. The actual fab may have to be located in areas where there is plenty of water, good temperature, financing, everything. But assembly, testing, packaging, design, everything can be dispersed. So the way to look at it is not look at it as only as where the data centers are located, but in terms of the entire ecosystem. And there is a dispersed approach to AI infrastructure, if I take it broadly.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to all of you and the audience for such an engaging discussion. I really realize we're short on time. I will wrap up or make an attempt to wrap such an enriching discussion. And for that, there's just 3 quick points that we would like the audience to take away, which I think summarizes this discussion. One is just the link in between systems. AI is no longer a siloed technical function on its own, but it's so interconnected, and maintaining that we use different terminologies, interoperability, cross-functional, whatever we call it, but that link is very critical. The second, which I'm really glad we got to on this panel, is the human element of AI. The fact that AI is an enabler, but not something that we see independent of. And I think every single panel member stressed on that, to really look at how we can ensure it's not an all-encompassing function on its own. And then the last, probably my most favorite, is how grounded we were in this discussion. I think it was very refreshing to hear such good questions on how this is relevant for women, smallholder farmers, for vulnerable populations on the ground. And the discussions around AI tends to be very, I call it invisible cloud above us. That is important, but we don't know what that means on a day-to-day. And I think so much of ensuring this discussion is accessible, how are we ensuring AI is affordable, these are very critical questions that we continue to ask at such senior management levels. And at least for me, I found that very refreshing, and I walk back with a little bit of hope from this. With that, we want to thank you for your time so much and for hearing us out. It's been really nice to be here. Thank you to our panelists, and I'll hand it over to the organizers to formally wrap the event.
Thank you so much. It was a brilliant panel, and I thank you, all of you, and also all of you who came here to attend the panel. And now I would like, the organizers would like to give you some memento. So I would ask the Mehti to come and present memento to the first to Director Naidu from the Independent Office of Evaluation in IFAD. And then to Magan Naidu, the Chief Data Officer of World Food Programme. And then we have Brenda Gunde from the Chief of the ICT for Development from IFAD, the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Then we have Dr. Vincent from the Director of Innovation from the Food and Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations. Then also we have Dr. Anantha, the Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India. Last but not the least, we have Vaishnavi Pavitran, who did an amazing job moderating this session. Thank you so much, Vaishnavi.
I request Anup also to accept the memento from Mehti's side.
Anup Sharma from IFAD. Anup sat with me day and night to get this together, so thank you to him and all of our team for doing this. We'd like to take a formal photograph to wrap up, and thank you again, audience. A lot of our partners that we see in the audience, we appreciate your time.